Welcome back to another episode of The Quest for Self. I'm your host, Allie. This weekend, I had a major realization. One that reminded me how important it is to protect our energy, especially around the people we love. I want to talk about the kind of friendships that, while rooted in love, leave us feeling completely depleted. Because sometimes it's not about whether you care about someone. It's about whether your energy can afford the interaction. This episode is for anyone who's ever felt torn between love and emotional exhaustion. So here's what happened. I decided to take the weekend for myself. Friday and Saturday were just for me. I went to the pool, hit the gym, hung out with my dog Mia, and just genuinely enjoyed being on my own. Friday night, I stayed in, watched one of my favorite Netflix shows, and by Saturday morning, my energy was feeling so good, like so good. And then I decided, you know what? I'll see this friend I love. I love her with all of my heart, but I don't love hanging out with her. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but hear me out. I thought it'd be a quick little catch up, a nice chit chat, sync up on life. Nothing too heavy. But what I thought would be 1 hour turned into two of the most dreadful hours of the entire weekend. It's one of those friendships where the vibe is always low. There's always a frown, always something negative. And the worst part is, when I try to bring up something positive, it gets dismissed, like it doesn't matter. I found myself once again trying to steer the conversation into lighter territory, trying to hold space for joy, or at least something that didn't feel so heavy. And honestly, as I walked home after those 2 hours, I felt it hit me like a wave. Well, more like a ton of bricks. My energy, gone, depleted, drained. I was like, wait, where did that light, peaceful feeling I had all morning just disappear to? And that's when it really clicked for me. There are people, even people we love, who can suck the life out of us. Not because they mean to, but because they live in a space of constant heaviness. And when you're someone who feels deeply or naturally uplifts, you become the emotional battery in that interaction. And here's the thing, love doesn't equal access. Just because you care about someone doesn't mean they get unlimited access to your emotional energy. What I realized is, with this person, I don't just talk. I work, I manage the vibe, I carry the convo, I soften the edges of everything they say. I bring the sunshine into what often feels like a thunderstorm. And honestly, that is not sustainable. Sometimes it's not about cutting someone off, but about understanding the emotional cost of every interaction. And if you're always paying the cost with your peace, your joy, your mental space, then it's okay to reevaluate how often you're willing to give that energy away. So, if you're listening and you've been feeling drained after hanging out with someone, even someone you genuinely care about, I want you to give yourself permission to feel that. It doesn't make you a bad friend. It makes you self-aware. Start paying attention to who adds to your energy and who quietly takes from it. Not everyone gets to be in your inner circle. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's a form of emotional survival. So, here's the challenge. If you're hanging out with friends this week, I want you to ask yourself, how do I feel after I spend time with this person? If the answer is less like myself, then maybe, just maybe, that's a signal to create a little more space. But why do we often feel guilty about that? Let's dive a little bit into the guilt because I know I'm not the only one who feels it. The guilt, well, it shows up when the person draining you is someone you really care about. Your best friend since college, your sister, your mom, a cousin you grew up with. Maybe it's someone who's been there for you through hard times and someone you feel responsible for emotionally, culturally, or just out of habit. I mean, I'm Latina, and for so many of us in our culture, there's this deeply embedded message that family is everything, that no matter what, you show up. You push your needs aside. You pick up the phone, make the time, stay longer than you want, even if every fiber in your body is asking for space. But here's the thing. Love doesn't mean self abandonment. If you're an empathetic or nurturing person, chances are you've been carrying the emotional load in a lot of your relationships. You're probably the fixer, the listener, the one who absorbs. And when you're that person, it can be so easy to feel guilty when you finally say, I can't today. But emotional labor is real. It adds up. And over time, it could weigh you down to the point where you're not just tired, you're numb. So, if you're struggling with this guilt, know this. Setting boundaries isn't an act of betrayal. It's actually an act of respect for you and the other person. Because when you show up from a place of resentment or depletion, you're not giving them your best anyway. So, how can we handle these situations with compassion? What do you do when you recognize this dynamic? Because cutting people off doesn't have to be the go to move. This isn't about creating drama, it's about creating space. And sometimes it's as simple as setting boundaries with yourself. Maybe you don't need to have a big sit down conversation with this person, especially if you know they'll take it personally or won't understand. Instead, you can adjust the way you show up. Here are a few compassionate ways to protect your peace. Space out the time between hangouts. If you normally see them every week, maybe stretch that to every few weeks. Give yourself breathing room. Shorten the hangouts. Instead of a long lunch or dinner that leaves you drained, maybe it just turns into a coffee date or a 45-minute walk. Mix in lighter activities. Don't just default to deep, heavy talks. Suggest something different. An arts and crafts class, pottery, painting, a cooking workshop, things that create shared energy rather than draining conversation. Bring in other people. Invite a mutual friend or two. Sometimes group energy can help diffuse the intensity and lift the vibe naturally. And most importantly, check in with yourself. Before the hangout, ask, do I have the energy for this today? And after it, ask yourself, how do I feel? Lighter? Heavier? Not every relationship needs to end, but some definitely need a new rhythm, one that honors your energy as much as it honors the connection. I want to pause here and say something that I really needed to hear myself. You are not selfish. You are not unkind. You are not wrong for needing space. Feeling depleted after spending time with someone, even someone you love, doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you honest. It means you're in tune with your energy. And that is something worth celebrating. You can still love deeply and choose self preservation. You can hold compassion for someone and still set a boundary. You can want the best for them and not want to be their emotional sponge. Here's a mantra I've been holding on to: I can love you and still choose me. Say that again to yourself. I can love you and still choose me. Let that sit in your body. Let it take up space. Because you deserve relationships that feel reciprocal, uplifting, and safe, not just familiar or loyal. So, if you've been feeling the pull to set back, to create space, to put your well being first, let this be your permission. Not everything or everyone deserves unlimited access to your energy. And protecting your peace doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. You're allowed to choose yourself over and over again, without explanation, without guilt, and without looking back. Because the truth is, when you protect your energy, you protect your growth. And when you honor your boundaries, you make room for the kind of love and connection that truly honors you back. And remember, every step you take leads you to a better version of yourself, even the ones that start with a simple but powerful choice: I choose me. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Quest for Self. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, like, follow, subscribe, comment, and share. It would mean the world. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media, The Quest for Self.